The message arrived on every human communication device at the same time. Screens flickered to life in homes, offices, and military bases across Earth and its colonies. A tall reptilian creature appeared, its scales shimmering green and gold under harsh lighting. Ambassador Kelthix of the Vraxian Empire stared into the camera with cold yellow eyes. His words were simple and direct. Humanity had 10 days to surrender. 10 days to accept Vraxian rule and become part of their empire. If humans refused, the empire would send its fleets. They would destroy every human world, every station, every ship. Humanity would cease to exist. The ambassador spoke as if he were doing humans a favor. The Vraxian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They controlled thousands of worlds. Their military fleet numbered in the millions of ships. Humanity should feel honored to join such a powerful civilization. Resistance would be foolish and fatal. When the message ended, people across Earth stood in silence. Some were afraid. Others were angry. But in a secret military facility deep beneath the Colorado mountains, Admiral Jacob Pierce smiled. Jacob was a career military officer who had spent 40 years in service. He had gray hair, sharp blue eyes, and a calm demeanor that never cracked under pressure. When humanity had first made contact with aliens 15 years ago, Jacob had been assigned to study them. He had learned everything he could about the Vraxian Empire and dozens of other alien species. What he learned had worried him deeply. The Vraxians were conquerors. They saw other species as either subjects or enemies. There was no middle ground. Jacob had tried to warn the government, but many officials believed the aliens would leave Earth alone if humans stayed quiet and peaceful. Jacob knew better. He knew the Vraxians would eventually demand submission, so he had started preparing. In secret, with the support of a few trusted government officials, he had launched Project Nightfall. Now 15 years later, he sat in the United Earth Command Center with President Linda Hayes and General Chris Bennett. The room was massive, filled with computer stations, holographic displays, and dozens of military personnel. Red emergency lights bathed everything in a crimson glow. Linda Hayes was in her second term as president. She was a former senator who had campaigned on peace and diplomacy. She had brown hair streaked with gray and worry lines around her eyes. She had supported Project Nightfall reluctantly, hoping it would never be needed. Now her worst fears had come true. General Chris Bennett was Jacob's oldest friend. They had served together in 3 different conflicts before humanity had reached the stars. Chris was broad-shouldered and stern-faced with dark skin and a commanding presence. He trusted Jacob completely, which was why Project Nightfall had succeeded. Linda looked at the 2 military men with tired eyes. She had been in emergency meetings for 3 hours since the Vraxian message arrived. The United Nations Security Council was in chaos. Some nations wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded they fight. The arguing had accomplished nothing. 10 days, Linda said quietly. Her voice was hoarse from talking. They're giving us 10 days to decide if our species lives or dies. Jacob leaned back in his chair. His smile hadn't faded. Madam President, they're not giving us 10 days. They're giving us an excuse. An excuse for what? To show them what we really are. Chris stepped forward and activated a holographic display. The image showed Earth's solar system, from the sun out to the distant Kuiper Belt. Red dots began appearing on the display. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Each dot represented something humanity had built in secret over the past 15 years. Project Nightfall is complete, Chris said. His deep voice carried across the command center. Every asset is in position. Every weapon is armed. Every crew is ready. Linda stared at the display. Even though she had approved the project, seeing it all laid out like this was overwhelming. There were so many dots, so many hidden installations that no one outside this room knew existed. What are they? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Weapons platforms, Jacob said. Hidden bases inside hollowed-out asteroids. Automated defense systems. Drone carriers, mines, everything we need to defend Earth. And ships, Chris added. 500 warships. Not converted cargo vessels or science ships. Real military vessels designed for combat. Linda felt her heart sink. 500 ships against millions. Jacob, how can we possibly win? Because the Vraxians have forgotten how to fight, Jacob said. He stood and walked to the display, pointing at the enemy empire's territory. They've been the dominant power for 3,000 years. They haven't faced a real threat in living memory. Their military tactics haven't evolved because they haven't needed to. They rely on overwhelming force and superior numbers. And we're relying on what? Linda asked. Hope? No, ma'am. We're relying on something the Vraxians don't understand. We're relying on being human. Jacob turned to face the president. His expression was serious now, all traces of his earlier smile gone. Humans have been at war since we lived in caves. We've fought each other, fought nature, fought diseases, fought starvation. We climbed to the top of Earth's food chain by being tougher, smarter, and more stubborn than anything else on the planet. He gestured to the display. The Vraxians see us as primitives because we only reached space a few centuries ago. But we've been fighting for survival for hundreds of thousands of years. War is in our DNA. It's what we're good at, even if we wish we weren't. Chris nodded in agreement. We spent 15 years studying their technology while they thought we were struggling to understand it. We took everything they showed us and made it better. Our ships are faster. Our weapons hit harder. Our tactics are more flexible. And we have one more advantage, Jacob added. They think they're going to fight scared civilians. Instead, they're going to fight soldiers who have been preparing for this moment since first contact. We knew this was coming. We've been waiting for it. Linda looked between the two men. She had trusted them with humanity's survival, and now that trust would be tested. She took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. When she spoke, her voice was stronger. Send our response to the Vraxian Empire. Tell them humanity declines their offer. Tell them we will never surrender our freedom. Yes, ma'am, Jacob said, and Jacob, Linda's eyes locked with his. Make them regret picking this fight? The Admiral's smile returned. With pleasure, Madam President. The command center burst into activity. Officers relayed orders across secure channels. Computer systems activated weapons platforms throughout the solar system. Warships that had been hiding in the darkness powered up their engines. Soldiers reported to battle stations. Across Earth and its colonies, the civilian population was told to prepare for war. Emergency shelters opened their doors. Essential supplies were distributed. Families hugged each other tight, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. 800 million miles away, Ambassador Kelthix received humanity's response aboard his flagship. He read the message once, then laughed. It was a harsh clicking sound that echoed through the bridge of his massive warship. His crew laughed with him. These humans were fools. Their bravado would last exactly as long as it took the Empire's fleet to reach their homeworld. Kelthix gave the order without hesitation. 300 warships, each capable of destroying a planet, would depart immediately. The journey to Earth would take 8 days. Plenty of time for the humans to realize their mistake and beg for mercy. In the Colorado Command Center, Jacob watched the Vraxian fleet begin its journey on long-range sensors. Commander Kate Morris stood beside him, a young officer with bright eyes and nervous energy. Sir, she said quietly, what if we're wrong? What if we can't stop them? Jacob looked at the approaching enemy fleet on the display. 300 red dots moving toward Earth like a swarm of locusts. Then he looked at the thousands of blue dots representing human defenses scattered throughout the solar system. Katie, my grandfather, told me a story when I was young, Jacob said. He said humans are the only species on Earth that looked at bigger, stronger predators and decided to hunt them anyway. We hunted mammoths. We hunted tigers. We even hunted whales in the ocean using wooden boats. He turned to face her. The Vraxians think they're the predators and we're the prey. They're about to learn that humans are the most dangerous predators this galaxy has ever seen. We don't run when something tries to eat us. We fight back. And we win, Kate nodded slowly. Some of her nervousness faded, replaced by determination. All stations report ready, sir, she said. Good, Jacob replied. Now we wait. Let them come to us. Let them think they're winning. And then we show them what Earth really is. The countdown had begun. 8 days until the Vraxian fleet arrived. 8 days until humanity would fight for its survival. 8 days until the galaxy learned that some prey fought back. The Vraxian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly on schedule. 300 massive warships materialized in the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. Each vessel was over 2 miles long, bristling with weapons that could turn cities to ash in seconds. Admiral Kelthix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Endless Conquest. He felt confident and powerful. This would be easy. The humans would see his fleet and realize how hopeless their situation was. Perhaps they would surrender after all. It would save everyone time. Begin scanning procedures, Kelthix ordered. Locate their defensive positions and military installations. The sensor officer worked at his console, his clawed fingers moving quickly across the controls. After a moment, he stopped. His scales turned pale. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Thousands of them. Kelthix felt his confidence waver slightly. Thousands? That can't be correct. Our intelligence said they barely had 100 ships. These aren't ships, sir. They appear to be stationary platforms and satellites. The readings are scattered from here all the way to their homeworld. Then destroy them, Kelthix said, his voice sharp. Clear a path to Earth. Show these primitives the price of defiance. The Vraxian fleet began moving forward, their massive plasma cannons charging with power. They advanced slowly, maintaining their tight formation. 300 ships moving together like a school of predatory fish. As they crossed Neptune's orbit, the first human weapons platform activated. Then another. Then 100 more. Suddenly, the dark void between stars lit up with weapons fire. But these weapons were nothing like what the Vraxians expected. There were no plasma beams or particle cannons. Instead, solid metal slugs came screaming through space at incredible speeds. Nuclear missiles left white trails as they accelerated toward their targets. Laser beams cut through the darkness like burning knives. 3 Vraxian ships simply vanished in the first 3 seconds. They were torn apart by the sheer volume of incoming fire before their crews even realized they were under attack. 5 more exploded as nuclear warheads detonated against their hulls. Kelthix grabbed the armrest of his command chair as the ship shook. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire immediately. What are those weapons? Unknown, sir, the tactical officer shouted over the alarms. They're using solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons. These kinetic rounds are punching straight through. The Vraxian fleet began firing back. Their plasma cannons found targets and human platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Debris scattered across space. But for every platform destroyed, 2 more seemed to appear. And they were adapting. The human weapon systems adjusted their aim after each shot, learning the Vraxian ship's evasive patterns. How is this possible? Kelthix demanded. They're primitives. They shouldn't have this technology. Sir, new contacts, the sensor officer called out. Multiple large masses throughout the outer system. They're powering up. What Kelthix had thought were simple asteroids suddenly revealed themselves as something far more dangerous. Massive rocks that had been floating in space for billions of years, split open like metal flowers. Inside each one was a fortress packed with weapons, supplies, and automated defense systems. The Vraxians found themselves in a crossfire. Weapons platforms ahead of them. Asteroid fortresses on their flanks and behind them. Kelthix watched in growing horror as his fleet was being systematically destroyed. 30 ships gone already, 10% of his force, and they hadn't even reached Mars yet. In the Colorado Command Center, Jacob watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. Numbers scrolled across displays showing ammunition expenditure, damage reports, and enemy casualties. The battle was going exactly as planned. Status report, he said calmly. Kate stood beside him, her fingers flying across a tablet computer.
We've lost 43 weapons platforms.
Enemy losses at 31 ships and counting. They're still advancing but taking heavy casualties. Good. Let them push deeper. They think they can power through our defenses. Lieutenant Danny Foster, activate the second wave. Yes, sir, Danny said from his station. He was young, barely 25, with red hair and freckles. He looked like he should be in college, not fighting an alien invasion. But his fingers were steady as he entered the activation codes. Throughout the asteroid belt, hidden bases came fully online. These weren't small platforms. These were installations the size of small cities, each one capable of outputting firepower equal to a dozen Vraxian warships. They added their weapons to the defensive grid, and the space around the Vraxian fleet became even more deadly. Ships twisted and turned, trying desperately to avoid the incoming fire. Some collided with each other in their panic. Others broke formation, making themselves easier targets. The tight military precision the Vraxians had maintained was falling apart. Sir, new contacts, the tactical officer in the Colorado Center announced. Multiple small craft approaching from the inner system. Speed is incredible. Right on time, Jacob said. That's our drone swarm. Let's see how they handle this. The drones appeared like a storm of metal wasps. There were thousands of them, each one small and fast and deadly. They had been hidden near Venus, waiting for their moment. Now they streaked toward the Vraxian fleet at speeds that should have been impossible for such small craft. The drones hit the alien ships like piranhas attacking wounded prey. They were too small for the massive plasma cannons to track effectively. They zipped between the huge warships targeting weak points. Engine clusters, weapon arrays, shield generators, communication dishes. Some drones carried explosives. They flew directly into vital systems and detonated, crippling ships from within. Others used cutting lasers, slicing through armor plating like butter. And they learned. Every time a Vraxian gunner managed to shoot one down, the other drones adapted their flight patterns to avoid the same fate. "This is insane," Celtic screamed. His bridge was filled with smoke and sparks. Half his crew was dead. The endless conquest was still operational but badly damaged. They fight like a hive mind. How are they coordinating so many units? On Earth, Lieutenant Amy Price monitored the drone network from her station. She was a computer specialist who had helped design the artificial intelligence system controlling the swarm. The drones weren't truly intelligent, but they shared information so quickly that they might as well be. "AI control is holding steady, sir," Amy reported to Jacob. "Network efficiency at 98%. We're adapting to their countermeasures faster than they can implement new ones." Jacob nodded. Humanity had spent years developing military AI systems. The ethical concerns and safety protocols had been carefully debated. When war became inevitable, those protocols had been adjusted. The drones had just enough intelligence to be devastatingly effective without being dangerous to their creators. The Vraxian fleet was in chaos now. Half their ships were destroyed or so damaged they could barely function. The survivors were trying to maintain some semblance of order, but it was hopeless. They had walked into a carefully prepared trap, and spring was still closing around them. Celtics made a decision that went against every instinct he had. Against 3,000 years of Vraxian military tradition, against his pride and his honor, but he made it anyway because the alternative was death. "All ships emergency faster than light jump," he ordered. "Retreat to staging area Theta now." The order was repeated across the fleet. Ships that were still capable of jumping began charging their drives. It took precious seconds. Seconds during which more ships died. Finally, one by one, the surviving Vraxian vessels vanished in flashes of twisted space. When the last enemy ship disappeared, the command center erupted in cheers. Officers hugged each other. People shouted and laughed. They had done it. They had faced an Empire's military fleet and won. Jacob raised his hand for silence. The celebration died down quickly. "Listen to me. All of you. We won today, yes, but don't celebrate too much. This was just one fleet. The Vraxians have thousands more ships. They'll be back, and next time they'll bring everything they have." The mood sobered immediately. Kate looked at the damage reports scrolling across her screen. "What are our losses?" 43 platforms destroyed. 16 asteroid bases damaged. We lost about 300 drones. No human casualties because everything was automated. "Madam President," Jacob said as Linda Hayes appeared on the main screen from her secure bunker. "We've proven we can fight them. Now we need to prove we can win." Linda looked exhausted but determined. "What's your recommendation, Admiral?" "We can't just sit here and wait for them to come back. We need to take the initiative. We need to hit them where they're not expecting it. Show them that defending Earth was just the beginning." "You want to take the fight to them?" Linda said slowly. "Yes, ma'am. Humanity didn't survive this long by playing defense. We survived by being aggressive, by taking risks, by refusing to back down. The Vraxians need to learn that attacking Earth comes with consequences." General Chris Bennett appeared on another screen. He had been coordinating with military units around the world. "I agree with Jacob, Madam President. We have the element of surprise. They think we're desperate defenders. Let's show them we're capable of being attackers, too." The Vraxian High Command didn't believe Admiral Celtics's report at first. They read it 3 times, certain there must be an error. A third of his fleet destroyed by humans? The primitives who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. Impossible, but the sensor logs didn't lie. Neither did the survivors' testimonies. The humans had weapons and tactics that seemed far beyond what they should possess. The High Command called an emergency session in their ancient council chamber on the capital world. Overlord Vexnar sat at the head of the massive stone table. He was old even by Vraxian standards, over 200 years. His scales were more gray than green now. He had led the Empire's military for 50 years and never lost a battle. This news made his blood run cold. "This changes everything," Vexnar said, his voice sharp as broken glass. "These humans are not what we believed them to be. We must respond with overwhelming force." High Counselor Zixara nodded, her younger features twisted with anger. "I propose we assemble the 5th Imperial Fleet. 2,000 warships should be more than sufficient to reduce their entire system to dust." While the Vraxians argued and planned, humanity was already moving. Admiral Jacob Pierce stood on the bridge of the ESS Valiant, humanity's first true warship. It wasn't a converted cargo ship or a refitted science vessel. It was purpose-built for combat, every system designed for one goal: winning battles. The Valiant was sleek and angular, covered in dark gray armor that absorbed sensor scans. It was smaller than Vraxian capital ships but faster and more maneuverable. The bridge was compact, filled with holographic displays and efficient workstations. Everything was within easy reach. Nothing was wasted. "Status of the fleet?" Jacob asked, settling into the captain's chair. Captain Ryan Tucker checked his screens. Ryan was in his 30s with short brown hair and steady hands. He had flown combat missions in Earth's last war before first contact. Now he commanded humanity's finest warship. "All 50 ships report ready, sir. Crews are at battle stations. Reactors are at full power. We can jump on your command." 50 ships didn't sound like much against an empire of millions, but each one incorporated lessons learned from studying Vraxian technology. Human engineers had taken alien designs and improved them. The ships were faster. Their weapons hit harder. Their defenses were more sophisticated. More importantly, their crews were trained for this. Every captain, every officer, every technician had spent years preparing for war. They ran simulations until they could fight in their sleep. They studied enemy tactics until they could predict Vraxian responses before they happened. "Helm, set course for the Vraxian staging area," Jacob ordered. "Maximum stealth protocols. No active sensors. No unnecessary emissions. We're ghosts?" The human fleet slipped away from Earth like shadows leaving at sunrise. Their engines ran cold, producing minimal heat signatures. Their hulls were coated with materials that absorbed radar and sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Technology the Vraxians had never needed because no one ever tried to hide from them before. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of silent running through empty space. 3 days of waiting and preparing. Finally, they found what they were looking for. The Vraxian staging area where Kelthix's survivors had fled. 200 damaged ships floated near a massive military station. The station was huge, easily 10 miles across, a city in space where ships came for repairs and resupply. It was heavily armed, but not on high alert. The Vraxians didn't expect an attack here, hundreds of light years from Earth. "All ships hold position," Jacob commanded quietly. "Marines, you're up." On the ESS Ranger, Colonel Lisa Grant and her Special Forces team prepared for deployment. Lisa was tall and muscular with short black hair and cold green eyes. She had been Special Forces for 20 years. Now she led humanity's elite combat unit. Her soldiers wore powered armor suits painted matte black. The suits enhanced their strength, speed, and reflexes to superhuman levels. Built-in computers provided tactical information directly to their vision. Weapon systems were integrated into the arms. Each soldier was essentially a one-person tank. "Remember the mission," Lisa said to her team over the secure channel. "We're not here to destroy the station. We're here to send a message. Get in, grab what we came for, and get out. Clean and quiet until the very end." 20 assault pods launched silently from the Ranger. They were small, stealthy craft designed for exactly this purpose. They crossed the distance to the Vraxian station in minutes, using thrusters that produced almost no visible exhaust. The pods latched onto the station's hull like ticks on a dog. Cutting torches burned through the armor plating. The Marines poured inside, moving through corridors with practiced efficiency. The Vraxians never saw them coming. Guards turned corners and found armored humans waiting. They tried to sound alarms, but the Marines were faster. Stun weapons dropped enemies silently. Lisa led her team to the station's data core. This was the real objective. Not destruction, but information. A computer specialist named Pete Harris jacked into the Vraxian network and began downloading everything. Military deployment data, ship specifications, communication protocols, strategic plans. "How long?" Lisa asked. 2 minutes, Pete said, his fingers flying across a portable terminal. "Their security is good, but predictable. We've been studying their systems for years." While Pete worked, other teams moved through the station. They planted explosives on critical systems. They hacked into life support controls. and they captured 3 high-ranking Vraxian officers, stunning them and dragging their unconscious bodies back toward the extraction point. The entire operation took 17 minutes. 17 minutes from breach to extraction. Then the charges detonated. Not enough explosives to destroy the station, but enough to cripple it. Life support failed. Lights went dark. Communication systems overloaded. Weapon batteries went offline. And on every working display throughout the station, a message appeared in perfect Vraxian script. This is mercy. Next time we bring war. The Marines extracted cleanly, their assault pods racing back to the Ranger. By the time confused Vraxian crews figured out what was happening, the human fleet had already vanished into the darkness of space. They left no trace except destruction and fear. The captured Vraxian officers woke up in a holding cell on the Valiant. They were restrained but not harmed. A human guard brought them water and food. They were confused and terrified. This wasn't how prisoners were supposed to be treated. General Chris Bennett came to speak with one of them, a ship commander named Thexril. Chris sat down across from the alien, his expression neutral. Thexril glared at him with hatred and confusion in equal measure. "Do you know why you're still alive?" Chris asked calmly. Thexril said nothing. His training taught him to resist interrogation. He wouldn't give these primitives anything useful. "I'll tell you why," Chris continued. "Because we want you to understand something important. Your empire thinks we're prey animals. You've spent 3,000 years conquering species that couldn't fight back effectively. You attack, they surrender or die. Simple." Chris leaned forward slightly. "But humans are different. We've been fighting since before we had language. We fought saber-toothed cats with wooden spears. We fought each other with stones and sticks. We've had wars that killed millions of our own people. We built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. You're savages," Thexril finally spoke. "Violent primitives who will destroy yourselves eventually." "Maybe," Chris admitted. "But we're savages who survived everything our world threw at us. Ice ages, plagues, predators bigger and stronger than us. We survived by being smarter, tougher, and more adaptable than anything else. By refusing to quit no matter how bad things got, he stood up. Your empire declared war on a species that considers warfare an art form. We study it. We practice it. We have libraries full of books about strategy and tactics written over thousands of years. Names like Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Napoleon, Patton, military geniuses who taught us how to fight and win. You cannot defeat the empire," Thexril said. But his voice lacked conviction. "We already have," Chris replied. "We destroyed a third of your fleet at our homeworld. We just raided a military station hundreds of light years deep in your territory. We did it easily, and we're just getting started." He moved toward the door, then paused. "You'll be returned to your people in 3 days. When you get back, I want you to tell them something. Tell them Earth is offering one chance for peace. Withdraw from human space and leave us alone. Go back to your empire and never threaten us again." "And if we refuse?" Thexril asked. Chris looked back at him with cold eyes. "Then we'll show the galaxy what happens when you pick a fight with Earth. We'll dismantle your empire piece by piece. Not because we want to, but because you won't leave us any choice. Humans are very good at total war. We've practiced it on each other for millennia. You really don't want to see what we can do when we're fighting someone else." The door closed, leaving Thexril alone with his thoughts. For the first time in his long military career, he felt genuine fear, not fear of death. Fear of what these humans might be capable of if pushed far enough. Back on the bridge of the Valiant, Jacob reviewed the data Pete had stolen from the Vraxian station. The information was incredibly valuable. Deployment schedules. Overlord Vexenar stood before the assembled might of the Vraxian Empire and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Anger mixed with shame. The humans had raided a military station deep in Empire territory. They had stolen classified information. They had humiliated the greatest power in the galaxy. This could not be tolerated. This would not be forgiven. "Assemble the full might of the 5th Imperial Fleet," Vexenar commanded the gathered admirals. "Add the 7th and 9th fleets as well. I want 6,000 ships. We will not simply defeat these humans. We will erase every trace of their existence from the galaxy." The order rippled through the Empire. Ships from 100 worlds began converging on the staging area. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, carriers. Every class of vessel the Vraxians had developed over 3 millennia of conquest. Supply ships came loaded with enough ammunition to fight for months. Troop transports carried soldiers ready to invade any world that survived the initial bombardment. It took 2 weeks to assemble such a massive force. 2 weeks during which the Vraxians fortified their formation, improved their tactics, and prepared for every contingency. They had been bloodied by the humans once. They would not make the same mistakes twice. The armada was awesome to behold. 6,000 warships arranged in precise military formation, stretching across space like a steel forest. Each ship's weapons were charged and ready. Each crew was at battle stations. They moved together with practiced precision. Admiral Kelthix, given one more chance to redeem himself, stood on the bridge of his new flagship. His scales still paled when he thought about the last battle. But this time would be different. This time they had overwhelming numbers. The humans couldn't possibly have enough weapons platforms to stop 6,000 ships. On Earth, preparations had continued without pause. Admiral Jacob Pierce walked through the Colorado Command Center observing the frantic activity. Every station was manned. Every screen showed defensive systems coming online. 2 weeks had been just enough time to complete the final elements of their plan. Status report, Jacob asked Commander Kate Morris. Kate looked up from her tablet, her face drawn with fatigue. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night since the war began. None of them had. All outer defenses report ready. We've doubled the number of weapons platforms since the last battle. The asteroid fortresses have been restocked and reinforced. Civilian evacuations are complete. Everyone who can't fight is in hardened shelters. And the new systems? The minefields are deployed. 3,000 autonomous mines scattered throughout their likely approach vectors, all equipped with micro-jump drives like you specified. They're invisible until they activate. Jacob nodded with satisfaction. The mines had been his idea. Small devices that could jump short distances through space, appearing inside enemy formations, inside their shields. Each mine carried enough explosives to cripple a warship. He had gotten the idea from reading about naval warfare in Earth's oceans centuries ago. Sometimes old tactics worked better than new technology. What about the fleet? All 500 ships are positioned throughout the inner system. Hidden and waiting. Crews are rested and ready. Admiral, we're as prepared as we'll ever be. Jacob looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Vraxian armada. 6,000 red dots moving steadily toward Earth. It looked hopeless. It looked like certain defeat. Which was exactly what he wanted the Vraxians to think. How long until they arrive? 6 hours at their current speed. Good. Order all personnel to grab food and rest while they can. When the Vraxians get here, no one's sleeping until this is over. 6 hours later, the Vraxian armada emerged at the edge of the solar system. This time they were prepared. Their sensors swept space methodically. They detected the weapons platforms immediately. Thousands of them. More than twice as many as last time. But 6,000 ships could handle that. All vessels, advance in formation. Vexnar ordered from his command ship deep in the center of the armada. Destroy the platforms systematically. Maintain defensive positions. Do not break formation under any circumstances. The Vraxian fleet moved forward like a metal wall. When the weapons platforms opened fire, the aliens were ready. Their shields held. Their point defense systems shot down incoming missiles. Their return fire was devastating. Platforms exploded by the dozens. Jacob watched the outer defenses being methodically destroyed. It hurt to see so much work being eliminated, but it was necessary. He needed the Vraxians to feel confident, to think they were winning, to push deeper into the system. They're taking the bait, Kate said quietly. Maintaining formation just like you predicted. Vexnar is old-school military, Jacob replied. He believes in discipline and overwhelming force. He won't break formation no matter what. That's going to be his biggest mistake. The Vraxians ground through the outer system, destroying everything in their path. The asteroid fortresses put up fierce resistance, but were eventually overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The drone swarms launched again, but this time the Vraxians had effective countermeasures. Electromagnetic pulses disrupted the drones' coordination. They became easier to shoot down. Kelthix watched the battle with growing satisfaction. Yes, they were taking casualties, but nothing like last time. The humans' tricks weren't working now that the Empire knew what to expect. Continue the advance, he ordered. Clear a path to their homeworld. The Vraxian fleet crossed Mars' orbit. They were halfway to Earth now. Ahead of them lay only scattered resistance. Behind them was a trail of destroyed human installations. Victory seemed certain. That's when the mines activated. The Vraxians never saw them. The mines had been drifting silently, looking exactly like debris from destroyed platforms. They had waited patiently, letting the enemy fleet pass. Now they were scattered throughout the Vraxian formation. Thousands of tiny bombs waiting for one simple command. Activate, Jacob said quietly. The mines jumped. Micro jumps using technology the Vraxians didn't know was possible. Each mine teleported a short distance, appearing right next to a ship. Some appeared next to engines, others next to weapon systems. Many appeared inside shield perimeters where they couldn't be stopped. Then they exploded, all 3,000 of them within a span of 5 seconds. The Vraxian formation erupted in chaos. Hundreds of ships exploded outright, their reactors breached. Hundreds more were crippled, dead in space. The careful formation collapsed as ships desperately tried to evade mines that appeared from nowhere. "What's happening?" Vexnar demanded, his command center shaking. "Where did those explosions come from?" "Unknown, sir," his tactical officer shouted over the alarms. "Objects are appearing inside our formation. Inside our shields. It's like they're teleporting. That's impossible. No one has that technology." "The humans apparently do, sir." Vexnar felt cold dread settle in his hearts. The humans kept pulling out new surprises, new weapons, new tactics. How much more did they have hidden? "All ship, scatter formation," he ordered. "Create distance between vessels. Don't give them clustered targets." It was the right tactical decision. But it was also exactly what Jacob wanted. The moment the Vraxian formation broke apart, he gave the next order. "Launch the fleet. All ships engage at will." From hidden positions throughout the inner solar system, 500 human warships appeared. They had been lurking in the shadow of planets hidden in asteroid fields, masked by electromagnetic interference. The Vraxians had never detected them because they weren't looking. They had expected to find the human fleet near Earth, defending their homeworld. Instead, the humans were everywhere. The ESS Valiant led the charge. Captain Ryan Tucker pushed the engines to maximum, weaving through space with impossible agility. The ship moved like a fighter craft despite being a quarter-mile long. Inertial dampeners kept the crew safe as Ryan performed maneuvers that would have turned Vraxian crews to paste. "All weapons. Target their command ships," Jacob ordered. "Break their coordination. Make them panic." Lieutenant Carol Price worked her weapons console with focused intensity. She had red hair, green eyes, and steady hands despite the chaos. Missiles launched from the Valiant's tubes. Railguns fired solid slugs at devastating speeds. Energy weapons cut through Vraxian shields like hot knives through butter. A Vraxian cruiser exploded. Then another. The human ships weren't just attacking. They were executing. Every shot was calculated. Every maneuver was precise. They moved through the scattered Vraxian fleet like wolves through a flock of sheep. And they were learning. The human ships shared tactical data in real time. When one ship found a weakness in Vraxian shields, every ship knew about it instantly. When a captain developed an effective attack pattern, it was shared across the fleet immediately. The humans fought as a coordinated whole while the Vraxians fought as individuals. "Sir, enemy flagship detected," Kate reported. "Sending coordinates now." "Ryan, get us there," Jacob said. "Carol, I want every weapon we have ready." The Valiant cut through the battle like a knife. Smaller Vraxian ships tried to intercept but were destroyed or evaded. Within minutes, the human flagship was bearing down on Vexnar's command vessel. The Vraxian overlord watched the approaching human ship with a mixture of horror and fascination. It was so small compared to his massive battleship, yet it moved with such confidence, such precision. The Vraxian High Council gathered in their ancient chamber for the third time in as many weeks. The room was built from stone quarried 10,000 years ago, designed to inspire confidence and authority. Today it felt like a tomb. The counselors sat in their traditional places, but their usual arrogance was gone. In its place was something the Vraxian Empire hadn't felt in 3 millennia: fear. 4,000 ships, Counselor Zixara said, her voice hollow. "We sent 6,000 and only 2,000 returned. The humans destroyed 2/3 of our fleet." Overlord Vexnar looked older than his 200 years. His scales were pale, his eyes dim. "It's worse than that. They destroyed our confidence, our certainty. For 3,000 years we believed ourselves invincible. The humans proved us wrong in a matter of hours. What do we do?" Another counselor asked. The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. We have three options, Vexanar said slowly. We can gather our remaining forces and attack again. We can fortify our borders and hope the humans stay in their territory. Or we can seek peace. Peace? Zixara's scales rippled with disgust. We are the Vraxian Empire. We do not surrender to primitives. They are not primitives, Vexnar said sharply. That's the mistake we keep making. They're warriors. Perhaps the finest warriors this galaxy has ever seen. They've been fighting and killing since before they had written language. Every aspect of their culture is built around survival and conflict. We picked a fight with a species that's better at war than we are. So what do you suggest? I suggest we negotiate before they arrive here. Because they're coming. I'm certain of it. Vexnar was right. 300 light-years away, the human fleet was preparing to jump. 500 warships battle-tested and ready. Admiral Jacob Pierce stood on the bridge of the ESS Valiant, reviewing final status reports. Repairs were complete. Ammunition was loaded. Crews were rested. All ships report ready, sir, Captain Ryan Tucker said. He looked tired but determined. They all did. This would be the final battle. One way or another, the war would end today. Kate, any word from Earth? Jacob asked. Commander Kate Morris shook her head. President Hayes sends her regards and her trust. The United Nations Security Council has authorized military action. You have complete operational authority. Jacob nodded slowly. The weight of that authority pressed down on him. 500 ships, 70,000 crew members, all of them depending on him to make the right decisions. He thought about the people back on Earth, watching and waiting. He thought about the families of the soldiers who had already died. He couldn't let them down. He wouldn't let them down. All ships, this is Admiral Pierce, he said into the fleet-wide channel. Today we jump into the heart of the Vraxian Empire. Today we show them that attacking Earth comes with a price they can't afford to pay. We don't fight for conquest. We fight for peace, for the right to exist without fear, for the future of humanity among the stars. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Vraxians think they're the apex predators of this galaxy. Let's teach them what real predators look like. All ships jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. Space twisted. Reality bent. 500 human warships vanished from the solar system and reappeared at the edge of Vraxian space. They emerged in tight formation, shields up, weapons hot, ready for anything. What they found surprised them. The Vraxian home fleet was arrayed in defensive positions around their capital world. But they weren't attacking. They weren't advancing. They were simply waiting. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, Kate said. It's from Overlord Vexnar himself. Put it through. The Vraxian leader appeared on the main screen. Jacob had read files about Vexnar. The old warrior had led the Empire's military for half a century. He had conquered dozens of worlds. He was considered a tactical genius, but now he looked defeated. Broken. Admiral Pierce, Vexnar said slowly, I am empowered by the High Council to discuss terms of peace. Jacob felt a moment of surprise. He had expected another battle, a desperate last stand defending their homeworld. Instead, the Vraxians were offering surrender before the fight even began. He kept his expression neutral. Peace? Jacob said coldly. Your empire declared war on us without provocation. You tried to exterminate us. You attacked our colonies and killed our people. Now you want peace? We were wrong, Vexnar said simply. The admission seemed to cost him greatly. We believed ourselves supreme, untouchable. We had forgotten that supremacy must be earned, not assumed. Your species has taught us a lesson we desperately needed. What are your terms? Jacob glanced at Kate and Ryan. They nodded slightly. They had discussed this possibility, hoped for it even. Now it was here, the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Here are Earth's terms, Jacob said. First, the Vraxian Empire will withdraw from all human space immediately and permanently. A buffer zone of 50 light-years will be established around our territory. Any Vraxian ship that enters this zone without permission will be destroyed without warning. Vexnar nodded stiffly. Accepted. Second, the Empire will pay reparations for the colonies you attacked and the lives you took. The amount will be determined by a neutral third party agreeable to both sides. Agreed. Third, and this is non-negotiable, the Vraxian Empire will submit to an inspection and monitoring regime. Human observers will be stationed on key worlds to ensure you're not preparing for another attack. Your military buildup will be limited and monitored. Vexnar's scales rippled. Jacob knew this term would hurt the old warrior's pride, to have humans watching them. limiting them, treating them like a defeated enemy, which is exactly what they were. Is that all? Vexnar asked quietly. No, one more thing. The Empire will publicly acknowledge what happened here. You'll broadcast to every species in the galaxy that you declared war on Earth and lost. That humanity is not to be threatened, invaded, or attacked under any circumstances. That we are willing to live in peace, but we will not tolerate aggression. You're humiliating us, Vexnar said. No, Jacob corrected. We're teaching you the same lesson you tried to teach us. There are consequences for starting wars. The difference is, we're letting you survive to remember it. We could destroy your homeworld right now. We could hunt down every Vraxian ship in the galaxy. We could turn your empire into dust, but we won't. Because humans don't fight for conquest. We fight for survival. Vexnar was silent for a long moment. Jacob watched the alien's face, trying to read his expression. Finally, the Overlord straightened, regaining some of his dignity. Your terms are accepted, Admiral Pierce. I will inform the High Council immediately. The Vraxian Empire will honor this peace. You have my word as a warrior and a leader. See that you do, Jacob said. Because if you ever threaten Earth again, we won't stop at your homeworld. We'll dismantle your empire piece by piece until nothing remains but a warning to others. This is your only chance for peace. Use it wisely. The transmission ended. The bridge of the Valiant was silent. No one knew quite what to say. They had come here expecting a battle. Instead, they had won through the mere threat of force. The Vraxians had looked at the human fleet and decided they couldn't win. It was the ultimate victory. Set course for Earth, Jacob said quietly. Let's go home. The human fleet turned and began the long journey back to the solar system. Behind them, the Vraxian Empire began implementing the surrender terms. Ships withdrew from disputed territories. Communication channels opened. The process of peace began. When news reached Earth, the celebration was unlike anything in human history. Cities erupted in joy. People poured into streets across every nation. Strangers hugged and cried together. They had been days away from possible extinction. Now they were victorious. Safe. Free. President Linda Hayes addressed the world from the steps of the United Nations building. She stood in bright sunlight, surrounded by leaders from every nation. Her voice was carried to billions of people watching around the globe. Today, humanity achieved something remarkable, Linda said. We faced an empire that had dominated the galaxy for 3,000 years. An empire with millions of ships and billions of soldiers. An empire that considered us insignificant insects to be crushed without thought. She paused, looking into the cameras. And we won. Not through luck or divine intervention, but through preparation, courage, and the indomitable human spirit. We proved that we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. We will not surrender our freedom to anyone. But we also proved something equally important. We proved that we can be merciful in victory. We had the power to destroy the Vraxian Empire completely. Many voices called for exactly that. But we chose a different path. We chose peace over vengeance. We chose to end the war, not the species that started it. Her voice grew stronger. This is who we are. We're warriors when we must be, but we're also dreamers and builders. We went to space seeking knowledge and wonder, not conquest. When threatened, we fought. When victorious, we showed mercy. This is the humanity I'm proud to represent. So to any species watching this broadcast across the galaxy, here is Earth's message. We want peace. We want friendship. We want to learn and grow together. But if you threaten us, if you attack us, if you try to extinguish the light of human civilization, you will face the consequences. We don't start fights, but we finish them.